Thanks for tuning in to the Urban School Podcast. I'm back with another NFL topic. And I seen a debate the other day discussing greatness of quarterbacks. And two of the quarterbacks specifically that they mentioned were Peyton Manning and Patrick Mahomes. Now, this is an interesting debate, and it's kind of unfair because Mahomes is still navigating his career, and his career is not cemented yet, while Peyton Manning's is. So I think it was irresponsible for anybody to say that Mahomes were better than Peyton Manning already because his legacy is not finished. And if he doesn't win another championship, it'll be pretty much it'll be a very close debate at the bare minimum. But I don't think so. And I'll talk about that because Manning existed for most of his career, existed in at least in his prime. It was a running back era, and it was mostly predicated on running backs and defense, mostly until he got to Denver, and then he put up a lot of crazy numbers. And even though he was in a rushing era, he still put up crazy numbers in his prime in Indianapolis. But when he got to Denver, the game changed vastly. And I believe if most of his career was spent in Denver in a passing era, he might have thrown for like 100,000 yards. Um, but he didn't have that privilege while Mahomes does. So that is a huge difference, I think, in what their career numbers look like. But when you think about legacy as far as the playoffs goes, Manning doesn't have the success that a Tom Brady has because Tom, I mean not Tom Brady, but Patrick Mahomes has because Patrick Mahomes went to 5 Super Bowls already so early in his career. He's been to playoffs every year. He's pretty much been in a Super Bowl almost every year. So he doesn't have that success. But when you think about when the success that Manning has versus Tom Brady, which he's a 3-2 against Tom Brady and the Patriots in an era where the Patriots were running things, able to get 6 titles in, you know, 19 years that they did it, which was pretty much impeccable for an NFL franchise. Peyton Manning was 3-2 against Tom Brady with him winning the last 3 in their matchups. So he was very successful. He won one of those games in Denver in a close game against the Patriots against Tom Brady. So he's been very successful against Tom Brady. On the other hand, Patrick Mahomes is 0-2 in the playoffs against Brady. And then after Brady's pretty much prime, towards the end of Brady's career, he was unable to beat Tom Brady in the playoffs. He beat him a couple times in the regular seasons, but those don't really measure up for what the playoffs has. So you have to measure the quarterbacks against Tom Brady or against the other greats because it shows just the impact and it shows how well they played in great moments. Because stats aside, you have to win the big games, and as a quarterback, winning the big games is everything. So Patrick Mahomes won a lot of big games, but when you look at the Super Bowls, he didn't play too well in those Super Bowls. He did enough to win, of course, because that first Super Bowl against the San Francisco, where they were losing, and I think that was pretty much more about Jimmy G losing that game than the Chiefs winning that game. Then you have the Super Bowl that they've you know lost tremendously to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady, and then they lost the one incredibly to the Eagles recently. So they've done pretty poorly in the Super Bowl. Not to say that Peyton Manning hasn't done that in that Super Bowl against New Orleans Saints, but we think that game was about fate, and they pretty much was going to lose that game just because of the narrative of the league and what they wanted to do at that time post Hurricane Katrina. And when you look at a contextual look at both of the guys' careers, Peyton Manning never had a Hall of Fame coach. I mean, he had Tony Dungy, who was pretty good, and he had Gary Kubiak, which most people don't even know. So he didn't have the privilege of having a Hall of Fame coach. Peyton Manning was essentially the head coach because he ran the offense. They nicknamed him the sheriff because of the command he had in the offense. Now, meanwhile, Patrick Mahomes had the privilege of Andy Reid, who Andy Reid contributed highly to his success because we've seen his college career and what he wasn't able to do in college. I believe he didn't even make a bowl game. So, um, if Peyton Manning had Andy Reid for his whole career, Peyton Manning might not just have 2 rings, he might have 5 or 6, because he would have to go against Bill Belichick, and he would still have those things, but at the same time, I think he just needed a more oversight sometimes, and that's why sometimes he threw untimely picks, because he didn't have the thumb of Andy Reid, kinda guiding him through these things. Um, but Mahomes does have 3 rings all under Andy Reid, but their debate right now is still who is responsible, probably more so is Andy Reid or Patrick Mahomes. And Mahomes is the more mobile quarterback and the more creative and, of course, the more exciting quarterback to watch. But Peyton Manning does have 5 he has 5 MVPs. I mean, Mahomes has 2, but Peyton Manning does have 5 MVPs, and that does give him I think, a little bit over Mahomes right now, even though Mahomes has 1 more Super Bowl. But I think this conversation is still a little bit unfair because Mahomes is still writing his legacy, and we'll see how he looks post injury and if he can get back to any resemblance of his old self. And he'll be doing this with lesser players, of course. But um, I think if Mahomes' career was to end this year or next year, I would still put Peyton Manning as the second greatest quarterback of all time, or third behind Tom Brady and maybe Joe Montana. But That's those are undeniably the top 3 in my opinion right now. I can't put Mahomes in the top 5 right now because he's still painting his legacy, and there's other quarterbacks that still did great things that have a more complete resume than he has right now. So, tell me your thoughts about Peyton Manning and Patrick Mahomes, and until next time, I'll see you next time.